So I am going to show you how you can sublimate on holographic vinyl. I have a Cricut maker, and what I do is upload my image that I want to Cricut Design Space. Once I uploaded my image, then I am going to add it to my canvas. After I add the image to my canvas, I adjust the size that I need it to be. Also, when I adjust the size, I make sure that lock is closed so it resizes in proportion. After I resize the image, I create an offset. I typically don't like my offset to be that wide, but you can make it as wide or as narrow as you would like. Once you are happy with your offset, then hit apply. I created an offset using that print then cut image. So since I use it as a print then cut image, my offset is also a print then cut image. So the offset that I created is going to be cut out of holographic vinyl. In order to do so, I need to change it from a print then cut file back to a basic cut file. So this is a completely optional step, but I like to do it. I duplicate my offset layer, and I like to change it from the default color, which is gray typically, to white, and move it to the back of my print then cut image and flatten them together. The reason why I do this is because I want my Cricut to cut my image pretty close, but not exactly, because I know sometimes when you line your Cricut paper up on the mat, and if it's not calibrated just right, it can cut some of your image off. So this is just an additional step I do. Also, this is a popular step people do when they're trying to make stickers with a little white border around them. I highlight both layers and click the alignment tool and select center to make sure they're perfectly centered. With those two layers still selected, I then hit flatten on the right hand side, and what that does is change them from individual layers to one single image. With this square in the background, I'm just showing what the image now looks like since I have flattened those two layers into one. Now everything is ready to go, and send it to my Cricut machine to cut. Now this is very important. Let your Cricut mirror your image if your Cricut is going to be cutting the paper. The reason being is if you let your printer mirror your image is going to print on the wrong side of the paper, and then your machine won't be able to read those registration marks. When I send my image to my printer, I make sure that bleed is turned off, and then I also select system dialog. And why I do that is because I don't need the bleed marks, because I already have a white border around it because I flattened it, and I want to do system dialog because I want to make sure my print settings are set appropriately, so that way it can print at the best quality using the color corrections and also not mirroring my image twice so it populates on the wrong side. So the settings I typically do, I leave it on plain paper and make sure it's on high quality. I also make sure high speed printing is off and mirror image is off. Again, this is just a step you need to take if you're letting your Cricut cut your sublimation image. If you're going to be hand cutting this, you can just let your printer mirror your image for you. Then the only color correction options that I make is make sure that it's on Adobe RGB with the gamma of 2.2. Again, these are the settings that I do. Other people do them slightly different, but that's how I set up my sublimation print settings. I will be using my Epson 2760 to print this image, and this is what it looks like after I printed it. Then you load your image onto the mat. I'm using my fabric mat because it's dingy, and I'm using masking tape just to tape it down. But the light blue mat is ideally the mat you want to use when cutting paper. Now back on my desktop, since I've already printed it, I've already printed. Then I select copy paper close to the weight of my actual sublimation paper. Just triple checking to make sure it's all good to go. So I printed it. I got my blade loaded correctly, so now I'm ready to actually cut the paper. Back on my machine, since my paper is already loaded, I just hit the little flashing C, and then that will allow the Cricut to execute that cut action. Here, it is just reading that black box. The black box is the registration marks, so it knows exactly where to cut around on the piece of paper. So on my desktop, first you'll see scanning. Scanning is when the Cricut program is scanning the registration marks. Then it detects to make sure that it has the right blade in there to execute the function. Once it's detected the right blade, then it starts the cutting process. How long it takes to cut all depends on what you're telling it to cut out. Once it is done, the little load arrow will start flashing, telling you to unload your mat. So here's what it looked like after I got my Cricut to cut it out. Pretty exact. Here, I had some extra scrap paper, so I just trimmed it off and saved it later for a smaller project. The vinyl that I'm going to be sublimated on is Mystic Pearl Siser holographic vinyl. Ignore my mat, I know I need to clean it, but I just taped it shiny side down, and then I changed the material so my Cricut knew what to cut out. Read the prompts on your screen. It gives you the warning message to remind you what side to put the holographic down. So here, I've already cut up my image, and I'm just going to use a weeding tool to weed off the excess vinyl that I do not need. Also in this demo, I am going to be using black felt as my base. The black felt represents as if you were going to be using a cotton or dark shirt. Sublimation ink is transparent, so that's why you can't sublimate on dark garments directly. You have to do an alternative method like subbing on something like holographic vinyl, white glitter HTV, or easy subli, just to name a few. I pressed the holographic vinyl down for a few seconds at 315 degrees just to get it to stick. After it cools for a little bit, then I peel off the carrier sheet. Then I grab my heat tape and tape down my sublimation image that I printed on that sublimation paper. So tape it down nice and firm. That way, when you go to actually press this image onto the vinyl using your heat press, it won't shift, causing ghosting. Now, I'm a slight perfectionist, so it took me a minute, but I finally got it the way I somewhat wanted it and taped it down. And I taped it in, the corners and stuff like that, just to make sure that it doesn't lift or shift when I'm pressing it. When sublimating the image, I adjusted the heat setting to 385 degrees and I pressed it with firm to medium pressure for 45 seconds. So here is the moment of truth. My image has cooled down a little bit, so now I'm ready to peel it off. I can instantly see the colors popping through and it looks gorgeous. The vinyl that I am sublimating on, again, is Siser Holographic Mystic Pearl. The reason why I like this is because it is not transparent holographic vinyl, so you don't have to do anything extra to make sure that the colors pop. Now here is how much ink is left on the paper after I sublimated it. It was a great transfer. Here is an example of sublimating an image on white glitter HTV. This is also another popular alternative when using dark garments or cotton. As you can see, the colors are really vibrant and they're showing beautifully on this glitter. So sublimating on holographic vinyl is one of many options you can use. If you have any questions about anything you see in this demo, just let me know in the comments and I can help you out.